Hello and welcome to the Bengals football talk show. And for the first time in a while, it is a great day to be a Bengals fan. The rumors that the Bengals were finally going to spend big in free agency actually turned out to be true. As this week, the Bengals went out and signed interior defensive lineman DJ Reader and cornerback Trey Waynes to big impact deals. These deals are going to help out a Bengals defense that was extremely poor last season, especially in stopping the run. Also, early today, the Bengals replaced right guard John Miller with Xavier Suafio. So today I'm going to discuss these moves and others, as well as preview how I believe the Bengals should proceed from here. So let's talk a little bit about this DJ Reader deal. I would have to say the Bengals certainly shocked me when they finally went out for the first time in maybe forever and dove headfirst into the free agent market. They made Reader the highest paid nose tackle in the NFL with his 4-year, $53 million deal. And Reader will be just 26 years old this July. And after we saw the Bengals miss out on all the top linebackers in free agency, I started to believe that the rumors about the Bengals being big players in free agency this year had to be fake. Reports were that they were actually in on trying to sign Joe Schobert and Nick Kwiatkowski, or however you say his name, but they failed to match other teams' offers. When it seemed all hope was lost for the Bengals, they finally came through big. And they came through big, literally. Reader is a massive, strong, 327-pound man who is actually pretty fleet of foot for his size. He's going to be a huge help in stopping the run for this defense that needs help stopping the run desperately. They were the worst in the league per game at stopping the run. And unlike many nose tackles who are pretty good at stopping the run, Reader is a pretty good pass rusher as well. Reader graded out as the 5th best interior defensive lineman in all of football this past season and finished the year with a .14 WAR, which is pretty solid for an interior defensive lineman. His WAR was actually 8th among defensive linemen according to Pro Football Focus. I believe that the Bengals got Reader at the right price and at just the right time. Reader's going to be 26 years old this season, as I said earlier, and he's already an elite interior defender, especially in stopping the run. I think he can improve, however, at his pass rush. Many interior defensive linemen are able to improve their pass rush as they spend more years in the NFL, get more coaching, and especially him next to Geno Atkins, that's going to be a dynamic duo in my opinion. I think Reader can improve his pass rush and increase his sack totals from these past few seasons. Even if he doesn't, it's still a great pickup at this price, as he's one of the best nose tackles in the game. So while I was celebrating this Reader signing, the news broke that the Bengals had signed cornerback Trey Waynes to a massive 3-year, $42 million contract, which kind of brought me down a notch, I'm not going to lie. I mean, don't get me wrong, Trey Waynes is a solid cornerback and an upgrade over Kirkpatrick, but in my opinion, we're just replacing one overpaid cornerback with another overpaid cornerback. I guess the only silver lining to this is that $20 million of his deal is coming within the first 2 years, which will make the second and third year of his deal closer to a yearly average that we would have preferred. Going along with the Reader signing, Waynes is going to help the team in stopping the run. He graded out as a 74.5 or better in the run game over the past 4 years, according to Pro Football Focus. He's a physical corner and is able to tackle well and consistently, which is definitely an upgrade over Kirkpatrick. However, Waynes is similar to Kirkpatrick in coverage, so we're not really getting a much of an upgrade in the area that cornerbacks make the most impact in the game. One thing, however, is that Waynes is actually pretty fast. He ran a 4.31 at his combine, a little quicker than Kirkpatrick for sure. And also, he does not have as many back-breaking penalties. He's not nearly as grabby as Kirkpatrick. So in short, I think Waynes is a faster, better tackler and more disciplined Dre Kirkpatrick, but is still getting overpaid to come to Cincinnati. But you got to be happy with some improvement there. After releasing John Miller earlier today, the Bengals created a huge void at guard with just Michael Jordan, Billy Price, and Alex Redmond, who just received an original round tender, still on the team. And the Bengals plan to fill this void, I guess, with Su'a-Filo, who was a depth lineman last year with Dallas. Su'a-Filo received a 3-year, $10 million deal and will be making less than what Miller was scheduled to make. So maybe potentially Su'a-Filo will end up competing for the right guard spot. Maybe he's not projected to be the starter for certain. Because, to be honest, Su'a-Filo is not really all that spectacular. He was a spot starter in Dallas, but he actually this past season in very limited action, was the top graded pass protector according to Pro Football Focus. So maybe there's a little something to get excited about. But Su'a-Filo is definitely big, strong, physical, mean, something that Jim Turner likes. Might not be the most productive thing, I guess, in today's NFL, but that's what Turner wants from his linemen. And to be honest, I'm fine with Su'a-Filo as a depth player, especially with the contract he has. I think the Bengals could see him assuming that role eventually at some point in his deal. So that means the Bengals could still potentially draft another guard who could take Su'a-Filo's spot some point this year, or maybe he could just flat out get beat out by Redmond or Price. Because I feel like the Bengals see Jordan starting this season at left guard after developing last year. But I don't see the Bengals really addressing the O-line anymore in free agency, especially at least at the starter level. I would have rather seen the Bengals shell a little bit more money for someone like Andrus Peat or Joe Haig at the guard spot. I think the Bengals need to make protecting Joe a priority this year. It seems like the only change that we're seeing so far from last year's line is that, well, we added Jonah Williams, which will be a big help. But we just brought in another John Miller, in my opinion. And I don't know if that's going to really move the needle that much, really help us protect Burrow like I think we need to do. I personally don't feel like Bobby Hart is the true answer at right tackle. Maybe Fred Johnson, he's very, very young. I'm pretty sure he's still 22 years old. Maybe Fred Johnson takes over this year and wins the right tackle job, and maybe he becomes a really, really solid starter, maybe. But this all remains to be seen, and you would like to see the Bengals maybe take a little bit more action to ensure that their first overall selection is going to be protected. Their future of the franchise for hopefully years to come is going to be safe. So now moving on to some of the Bengals cuts and rumored trades at this point. The Bengals released this past week Cordy Glenn, B.W. Webb, John Miller. I feel like these are all good moves that are going to improve the team. Glenn was just not really being a team player. and he wasn't going to work out here in Cincinnati. Would love to see him stay with the team. We could definitely use the help along the O-line, as I was talking about earlier. But it was just not in the cards. And cutting Webb and Miller is going to help this team. They weren't up to par to win a championship in the NFL today. Also, these deals cleared up a little bit of money that we can hopefully sign some free agents with. On to clearing up some money. Both Andy Dalton and Dre Kirkpatrick are still with the team and are rumored to be on the trading block. And if they're not able to be dealt, they're going to get cut. With the signing of Waynes, I would assume that Dre is to go, but I am hearing some sources are saying that Dre is not going anywhere and he's going to stay a part of the team. I just feel like cutting Dre is going to allow you to improve the defense more than just keeping Dre. I think we need to go get some linebackers in free agency, maybe go get a safety, maybe get more D-line help. I think we cannot be done adding to this defense. We need to be more aggressive at adding to this defense. As for Andy, unfortunately, the Bears decided to take Jacksonville's deal for the 4th-round pick for Nick Foles. That sucks for us. I definitely feel like Andy's worth more than a compensatory 4th-round pick. That's pretty much a 5th-round pick to us, since we're picking first in each round. So I think maybe the Bengals are going to wait until the draft day and maybe get a deal like the Josh Rosen deal from last year. Maybe get a 2nd round for Andy. But not clearing out Andy's money now is going to mean that we're not going to sign any more free agents to help the team, and no more defensive help that we desperately need. I mean, we need more help on defense. Our defense is god-awful. I mean, maybe New England could be a trading partner for Andy Dalton, but that remains to be seen. I feel like Andy should be cut this week so that we can attack the defense a little more. So now what's next for our Bengals in free agency? I think they still have two positions on the defense that they could attack, and that's at slot corner and at off-the-ball linebacker. At slot corner, they allowed Darqueze Dennard to leave to Jacksonville, who is ruining our free agency period with the Nick Foles trade, by taking Darqueze, by stealing Joe Schobert from us. They're killing us, but we now need a new starting slot corner after Darqueze left. And we've waited, and now the slot corner market is dwindling and drying up. We missed out on Brian Poole earlier today, a guy that we should have got. He got a 1-year deal for $5 million. I would have given him $7 million for a 3-year deal. So $21 million 3-year deal. If he would have taken that, I would have given it to him, because he is a really good slot cornerback, but that is a sunk cost now. The remaining targets I feel like we need to be after are either Logan Ryan or Mackenzie Alexander. Ryan is a little older. He's 29 years old, and his career could be on the decline. I mean, this is a risk you're taking with free agents, but it's a risk that's got to be taken if you want to win games. Ryan has been very solid in the past, so hopefully he can continue that play in the future if the Bengals sign him. If not, I hope he sucks, because I don't want the Bengals to have to play anyone good. As for Mackenzie Alexander, he's just 26, and he was teammates with Trey Waynes last year in Minnesota, where he played the slot for the Vikings. He received a decent 65.7 grade last year for Pro Football Focus. I mean, he played okay, and he played pretty similar to Denard in my opinion. The score doesn't always reflect that from Pro Football Focus. Maybe the Bengals are content with what they have on the roster with guys like Darius Phillips, who's very limited action last year, but he did play very well last year. Maybe they expect him to start at nickel, or maybe the guys they brought in like Winston Rose, who excites me personally. He comes from the CFL where he led the league with 9 interceptions. He was an all-star, and he won the Grey Cup there. So he's a champion, and he's come to Cincinnati. Hopefully he can win another championship here. So maybe the Bengals feel comfortable to stick with what they got. Maybe Dre Kirkpatrick is a guy that they can see sliding into the slot. I pray to God they don't see Trey Wayne sliding into the slot, as he tried that early in his career with Minnesota and failed miserably. He plays much better on the outside, and I hope that's where they plan on playing Trey Waynes. I personally think we need to move on from Dre, clear up the money, and go get one of these corners. But maybe that's not what they see. As always, we could still improve the slot cornerback position in the draft. I want to attack these spots in free agency so that we can just select the best player available in the draft throughout the rounds, and we don't need a specific position in the draft, As for linebacker, the Bengals have missed out on the top flight, sure impact linebackers throughout these first few days of tampering and free agency. And in my opinion, the Bengals absolutely need to get at least one linebacker in free agency ahead of the draft, as right now they just have Jermaine Pratt and Jordan Evans returning from last year. This team needs someone who can step in and start. If we do not get a top linebacker like Kenneth Murray or Patrick Queen at 33, this means one of 3 remaining players, in my opinion, and one of them Bengals fans are very familiar with, as these players are Devondre Campbell, Josh Bynes, and Nick Vigil. We all know who Vigil is, and I was hoping personally the Bengals could upgrade from him a little bit. But I guess the world wouldn't end if he returned, especially with the signing of DJ Reader. I feel that Reader is going to help this linebacking core just as much maybe as signing someone like Joe Schobert or Corey Littleton, because Reader's going to eat up double teams. He's going to stop linemen from moving to the next level and blocking our linebackers. Doesn't matter who the linebackers are, an NFL linebacker is going to be able to run forward and make a tackle in the hole pretty consistently. So I think Reader is definitely going to help out our linebacker play this year just by eating up blocks. Now, for Devondre Campbell, he played for the Falcons this past season, and he's pretty fast for a linebacker. He ran a 4.58 at his combine, and he forced 5 turnovers this past season with 2 interceptions. So he's able to play the ball in coverage if he needs to. Last, Josh Bynes. He played for the Ravens this last year, and he played very well against our Bengals. He's very good at stopping the run, which seems to be an emphasis for the Bengals this offseason. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is the route the Bengals end up taking. Bynes graded out very well and very consistently with Pro Football Focus. And he could be a great addition for this team to come in and play a linebacker on first and second down. Now, we still need to get a linebacker that can cover. Maybe that's going to be Sean Williams again. Maybe Sean Williams and Pratt will be on the field for third down. Maybe someone like Bynes can come play first and second down, help stop the run. Personally, this is something that I'm starting to talk myself into more and more. I think this could certainly help the Bengals on defense this season. Now, as for some other possible signings that the Bengals could pursue that aren't necessarily needs, but could definitely improve this football team. If you should try to improve the team at every chance you can. One example is this interior D-line class is so deep, and one of these guys is Shelby Harris. He's a pass rushing specialist inside, and he's graded out very well with Pro Football Focus, and he's had solid sack production for an interior defensive lineman. In 2019, he graded out at 76.8, had 6 sacks, 90.4 an elite grade, 3 sacks. And in 17, he graded out at 76.3 with 6 sacks once again. Harris will turn 29 in August, but he can still be a very valuable rotational piece up front, giving breathers to Atkins and Reeder, maybe even being on the field with both of them in a big pass rushing set. I think this would make our interior one of the best, probably the best in the league. We would give centers and guards fits up the middle, and it would just help out our edge rushers like Dunlap and Lawson and Sam Hubbard as well. I think getting pressure up front is one of the most important things. Getting pressure on the quarterback is one of the most important things for a defense to be able to do. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about 2 safeties that I think the Bengals could go after would definitely improve the Bengals as a defense. The first one is Von Bell. He previously played with the New Orleans Saints, and he's played pretty solid there the last 4 seasons. He could give some help behind Sean Williams, who seems to have moved up and played a lot of will linebacker this past season. I think that could be Sean's role on the team this season, being a linebacker and passing downs, especially if we get a really stud safety like Von Bell or Clinton Dix. He was the top remaining free agent behind Jadeveon Clowney. Last year, Clinton Dix played with the Bears, and prior to that, he was with the Packers. And if the Bengals go out and get Clinton Dix, it would be a clear message to their fan base and to the NFL that it is a new day in Cincinnati, and they're ready to compete in this modern NFL for a Lombardi trophy, and they're finally giving the fans the team that they deserve. They're finally pushing for the championship that their fans deserve. It would be wonderful. And as a Bengals fan personally, I would be super pumped if the Bengals went out and spent money on Clinton Dix to bring him in, play safety next to Bates, and just wreak havoc on opposing offenses. I think if the Bengals made moves like the ones I've mentioned above, their defense could go from the worst to the top half of the league, which is all the Bengals need, in my opinion. I think their offense is going to be very excellent next year with the addition of the Joe Burrow. And with an important addition that I think doesn't get as much attention in the NFL as it should, and that is at tight end. Right now at tight end, we have C.J. Uzomah and Drew Sample, who was picked way too high. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. I mean, I know it's only been 1 year. I Everybody thought he was picked too way high then. I don't think he's proved that he wasn't picked way too high. I know tight ends have a longer time adjusting to the NFL, but I just don't think that Drew Sample is going to pan out to be a second round caliber football player. Now, with what's left in free agency, nothing really excites you. I don't really want to go back and get Tyler Eifert. I would prefer if the Bengals cut the $7 million contract of CJ Uzomah, to be honest. They could still go sign a tight end and provide depth. But I think if there's anyone on the trade market that's available or something like that, I think the Bengals really need to attack the tight end position. Because if you look at these teams that are elite football teams, that have elite offenses, that are in the Super Bowl, you see teams like the 49ers with George Kittle, the best tight end in the league. You see teams like your Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs with probably the second best tight end in the league, Travis Kelce. You see teams like the Ravens who have Mark Andrews, who's a very excellent tight end. It's just that the tight end position is just such a mismatch. And it seems like our Bengals have so much trouble guarding tight ends. And the fact is that every team has so much trouble guarding tight ends. And I think the Bengals need to attack the tight end position more than they have in the past. And maybe it's not this year. Maybe in the draft, I'm saying. Maybe it's not this year in the draft. Maybe it's next year in the draft. Or maybe Drew Sample pans out to be the tight end that Zach Taylor feels that he's going to be. But I don't see that happening. But if Cole Kmet's there in the third round, I would take him. I think Cole Kmet is going to pan out to be a really good tight end. But we'll talk about that more when we get closer to the draft. It's still very early. Not really, but everybody likes to say it's still very early for the draft. I think it's never too early to talk about the draft. I'm always excited about the future, especially when the Bengals are so bad. Anyway, yeah, I think the tight end position can be a huge difference in making a good team a great team. And with that, that's going to be all for today. Please like and subscribe to bring Bengals Football Talk for more videos like this one. Thank you.